pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Have to approve the agenda. We have to make a couple of additions here. One is we have to plug in citizens' concerns, and the other we have to plug in the manager's report. Where would you like to plug them in, gentlemen?
Citizens' concerns right off the bat, since,
Right off the bat.
yeah, most of these people are,
Okay, yep.
After approval of the agenda.
yep.
And manager's report at the end, or?
Yeah, we usually allow select board member comments towards the end as well.
I don't even see that there.
And I know we received some material related to the Economic Development Committee. Was that, that's not an agenda item, okay.
After the purchase order, after the warrants, or before?
Before purchase orders. And I assume we don't have a police update this week.
Oh,
No, it was last week. No.
and the manager's is after the purchase orders, or is that what you want?
I think someone else had a suggestion on where to put the manager's report, but
I'd like to put the manager's report before the select board comments,
sure.
because he may cover some.
Right after sailboats.
Sailboat.
Yep.
After sailboats.
Yep.
Okay,
With those changes, I would recommend the approval of the agenda.
I'll second it.
okay, motion to second with the changes, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Citizens' concerns. No citizens' concerns. Seeing none, hearing none. Okay. Moving on, the fence bid. Mike?
In your packet, there are, we received 4 bids back. There's a tally sheet in the front of it. With the 802 Fence Company, their bid was for $8,960. I'm recommending 802 Fence Company for that project here at the town office.
Okay.
3-year guarantee on that for 802.
What's
I
that?
saw somewhere 1-year warranty and somewhere 3. Oh, 3 years, okay.
Make a motion, we approve 802 Fence Company for a total amount of $8,960 for the town office fence project.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay.
Aye.
Next item, Castleton Days update. Jennifer Jones. Hi, Jennifer.
Thank you for letting me get on the agenda. I wanted to let you know that everything is proceeding very well. We've had a lot of community support. We've received a lot of sponsorships. And you should have a sample schedule of events of what's happening that day. I would like to officially invite all of you to come at least to the opening ceremony. Senator Collmore and Senator Hooker will be there to present to the select board a resolution stating that this is the first ever Castleton Day celebration, and they were able to push it through at the end of the last session. And so they'd like to be able to present it to you. They'll probably say a few words, present it to a member of the select board or the entire select board, and then hopefully Mr. Leamy might say a few words as the board chair, or if there's somebody else on the board who'd rather do that, that'd be great. And then it will be just kind of a festival atmosphere. We have a lot of live music going on, kids' activities, there'll be food vendors. We're hoping to get some boat tours going if we can raise some more money for insurance, because the town's insurance carrier will not insure that. So we're working on that right now. That's our big problem. But Martha's been great, letting us use Crystal Beach and keeping it open for us until that event. I know it has not been easy because there's a lot of things that they'd like to close up, but Martha and the rec committee have been great supporting the event. So, any questions about it?
Do you want to state the date and time?
Yes, it's September 22nd from noon to 4 at Crystal Beach, and we are having it there barring very bad weather. So even if it's drizzling or raining a little bit, we're still going to hold it. It would be if the weather was just, gusts of wind that would make it dangerous for us to be there, so otherwise it will happen on a day.
Okay.
Are you looking for any volunteers at this point?
We are always looking for volunteers. I've just met with some Castleton University students, so the university students are the Rotaract Club and the Community Service House are there's going to be some students from that volunteering, but we are always looking for volunteers, even if not for the whole day, for a couple hours, or come and set up, or help us get things cleaned up afterwards. So if anybody would like to volunteer, contact me, send them my way.
Any other questions? No? Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Next item is request to assign FY 18-19 funds for FY 19-20 projects. Mike?
Chairman, I don't know how you want to go about this, but I provided the select board with a packet. Not sure what you have for questions, or how you want to tackle this.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, may I make a motion that we approve the Town of Castleton Resolution number 19-00, the assignment of the fiscal year 18-19 general fund operating budget surplus as presented.
So the basis of your motion is to appropriate those funds, is that correct?
To approve the resolution as presented.
What resolution?
What resolution?
We don't have a
You
resolution.
got your packets.
Resolution number 19-00, subject is assignment of fiscal year 18-19 general fund operating budget surplus.
In here.
Presented by
Can
Michael.
you find it, Bob?
I saw it.
It's attached to the,
It's in the packet.
yeah,
Is it in the manager's report?
Yes.
yeah, the back of it.
In the packet. Well, it couldn't.
So the first two pages are notes about the background behind it, and then there's the resolution itself.
There's a motion to that. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
I'd like to talk about, or perhaps have you and others talk about together, this material that you gave us in our boxes, Jim.
Correct.
And would you mind clarifying the background on this and your interpretation of it?
Yes, the background comes from the Select Board Handbook, which is prepared by the League of Cities and Towns, and is available to all the Select Board members in the state. And it deals with handling of budget deficits or surplus. I believe it was written by Paul Gillis, who was known as the guru of local and state government and served for over 20 years as the Assistant Secretary of State. He's now in private practice, I believe, and partially retired. The part that caught my eye was, and that's what I highlighted, with regards to surplus. The safest policy is to stick to the basic principle that only the voters can approve appropriations. Some of these, in fact, all these, were not approved by the voters.
Well, I would argue that, as I wrote it, is this, the voters appropriated the budgets for those departments meeting at town meeting day. This is a surplus at the end of the fiscal year, not another appropriation. This is the use of the money that they've already appropriated for specific purposes. And if you read through this, it said that was a recommendation. It's not illegal or to do either way. And this was a way, as I put it to you guys, was, as I stated to you guys, that there were certain things that happened during the fiscal year that I stopped them from spending money primarily because of the storm that we had on the roads early on, and then followed by a storm on April 15th. And I stopped spending because at that point I was concerned that we were going to overspend the general fund operating budget. So at the end of the fiscal year, after the dust settled, because it was a very, I guess, not typical year, there was money left over in their budgets. Hence, what I've asked for this resolution was to be able to use that money for, if it was rec, it's only for rec. If it's fire department, it was only for fire department. There's, for the most part, there was some general budget surplus at the end of that, but most of it was department. So I don't think it's another appropriation of funds, it's from the electric. So that was the stance or the approach I took. And I also talked to the league as well, so that was, so just so you know where I was coming from.
I think the other part that we have here, and this is going into Part B, is the right or ability of a select board to encumber money after the fiscal year is completed. Now, there have been instances where the select board in Castleton encumbered money prior to June 30th. We are now at September 9th, and I asked the question, well, how long can we encumber money? Well, we don't know. How can you encumber money after the fiscal year has ended? That money should therefore, if there is a surplus, that money therefore should go back to the voters.
Mike, didn't you get an answer from the auditor?
Yes, our auditor, who we've used for 3 years now, who does this for a living, said that you can encumber the money or sign. He doesn't like to use the word encumbered, the word's assigned. You can't do it once the books are closed. So once we bounce that and we've come up with what that is for the end of the year, then you cannot do it. So I really don't believe, I've talked to him several times, it was Nathan Hawley, that he's going to give us bad advice, because last year he told us we could do it, and the board encumbered money prior to June 30th, and then made another one after June 30th. It was in July.
Well, I'm looking at the last page here in the report which we received on June 30th. The amount of money that was budgeted, $3,165,245. Amount that was spent, $3,270,245.61, which shows a deficit of $105,061. And then we have notes to that. Less highway encumbered, we only spent 95% of the current year budget. The current year budget is what the voters voted.
Correct.
That's what they voted.
I've tried to explain it.
And it was backfilled with money from other sources. So what we're saying is that any select board can freewheel and pretty much say to the voters, this is what the budget is going to be. But by the way, if we want to spend more money, we can go ahead and do that. I can see money being spent for an emergency such as the highway situation. But some of these things have absolutely nothing to do with the highway budget as such. And if so, there was money in the reserve fund for the highway budget in their carryover. But that has to be specifically used for the highway and highway department and related. It doesn't mean we can take it and use it for something else.
Correct, I'm not disagreeing with that. But
I knew we'd agree on something, Mike.
I respectfully disagree
That's
that
okay.
that money that was encumbered
Yep.
was from a prior fiscal year that the select board allowed to be carried over into the next. So there was $245,000. So I tried to do the math on the sheet for you to show you how I got there. You are correct. We had $105,000 overspent on the general fund budget.
Right.
It's actually 110 because you had the money from the cemeteries that we've already moved over. But of that, $245,000 was encumbrances. So there's a $146,000 difference. It wasn't, the money that we spent, Jim, was from the previous year or highway carryover that was allowed. So the general fund operating budget was not overspent. I know it's hard to look at that one page and have it explained, but that is the reality of it.
Well, I'm looking here at some of the figures. Town office parking lot, $7,000.
Yep.
Police department, $3,524. Fire department tools, $2,887. Generator, $11,550. Paving, $40,000. I can see the salt and some of those things and so forth. And, it just goes on and on.
That's a list of that you guys approved you approved $7,000 from the previous year to help the paving here. So that didn't come out of it didn't come out of last year's budget. You approved the carryover for the police department for their computers. That didn't come out of last year's budget.
Where'd it come from?
The previous year.
The previous year, okay.
Same thing with the generator, right?
Correct. You put $11,300 in there for the generator, so, because we didn't have enough in one year to pay for it, so you allowed it to be assigned to the next year, which, thank God that we did, because now we have a generator down at the Legion as.
I guess all I'm basically saying is, to you, is if people in departments are going to need certain expenditures, those expenditures should be placed in their budget. And once the budget is approved by this select board, it then becomes the select board's budget. All I'm basically saying is, unless you have an emergency, like the April storm or the winter sand and salt, that's perfectly understandable. But some of these other things aren't. And we just keep coming in with ways of spending and spending. And it's not what the taxpayers voted.
It is, I agree, I disagree to a point with you, Jim, because the taxpayers didn't vote on a specific line like small tools and equipment for the fire department. They voted on the fire department's budget. So long as the fire department stays within the confines of their budget, it's fiscally okay, it's not illegal, and I stopped them from spending. They have 6 air bottles they want to buy. I stopped them from buying them. If he tries to pass it on to next fiscal year, and it doesn't get approved, he's behind having 6 bottles to use for life-saving purposes.
I know, and there's certainly, I don't think there's anyone sitting on this board who believes that the fire department should not have the proper safety equipment. I know I can speak for myself, and I think the other board members would agree. But put it in your budget. Now, I'm looking at some of the budgets here that have deficits. Tax listing, $845. Document recording, $3,091. Police, $10,800. Emergency management, $11,350. Then there's the Highway 158. That's understandable. Animal control, $2,093. Transfer station, $41,000. Forest fires, $925. Those are all in the red.
They are, but a lot of it had encumbrances from the previous year. So I gotta try to make it sound like I know what I'm talking about here. So,
That's good.
So if
Okay.
you look at the highway budget, they had no money in there for that mower. But on their budget, it shows $44,000 was spent from the highway department for their mower. So did they overspend? No. You encumbered that money, or you assigned it from their surplus from the previous year. So it really did come out of they didn't overspend their operating budget, but if you have a checkbook, we're writing the checks from that checkbook, and the money's over here in the other account. So it's not, we didn't overspend. We did not overspend the general fund budget at all. We are $146,000 to the good.
That's not what these numbers show.
I know, that's why I tried to show it to you in that.
It's not what these numbers show.
It's the truth. It's in, that's why I showed it here, because you have to look at more than that one document.
But that's the only document we basically have. That's the only basic thing that we have is the end of the year report, which is what I asked for last time, before any consideration was given to spending surplus money.
Well, she gives, I think Melanie gives you a copy of this report as well, which has those carryovers. And then there is no report for the $7,000 for the fence. It gets put in, held in a reserve because you encumbered it from the previous year. But she gives you usually one of these reports as well, and it has all the highway carryovers.
Right. Well, let me just say this. One of the basic responsibilities of a legislative body is to provide oversight, and oversight has to do with spending. We don't just sit here, and we shouldn't just sit here like 5 bobbleheads at either Fenway Park and I'll say Yankee Stadium to
No,
make
don't
you.
do that.
Don't do that? No bobbleheads at Yankee Stadium? Okay, all right. But that's our responsibility. We're here to represent the taxpayers. And we shouldn't just be sitting here saying, well, we want to spend this, we want to spend that. Okay, put it in your budget. If it's in your budget and it's justified, fine. If it's not, then you don't do it, unless you have an emergency. If there's an emergency, I'm sure this board would be, at least I would, be more than willing to listen to it. I'm sure the other guys would too.
Jim,
Yes,
can I
Dick?
speak at over that point?
Sure, go ahead.
I'm looking at the budget report, the general fund unaudited report, which has since been audited, and I'm looking at page 16. It's dated 8/28/19, and it says that our actual expenditures, after you delete the carryovers from the previous fiscal year, were $3,016,248.07. Is that an accurate number as far as you know, Mike?
Yes,
Okay, that means that we only spent 75 or 95% of what the voters authorized us to spend for the fiscal year that closed on July 30th. The other
Not so.
253,000 was from the prior fiscal year. And carryovers and encumbrances that we authorized as a board, or the highway crew, or the highway budget that's already automatically authorized by statute.
Total expenditures on the last page,
No, look at
Page
page 16
16.
of that report.
total expenditures, or the number I gave you before, actual expenditures, 3,270,000. Budgeted, approved by the taxpayers, 3,165,000, a difference of $105,000. Till we backfill.
Between fiscal
Mr.
fiscal
Chairman,
year ending in 2019 and fiscal year ending in 2018, those funds were authorized to be expended by the voters.
Okay. I beat it to death enough.
no,
Go ahead, Joe.
I think there's a lot more that we need to discuss related to this. But I'm very aware that we got started late. We
Yeah.
got members of the public waiting. We have an agenda that has attracted them to our meeting. I think this is a very complicated and important issue, and I think we need to give it more time. And I, for one, without keeping everyone waiting until 10 o'clock, don't know that I can get my hands around this without a significant amount of time, and maybe even additional personnel, like
Okay.
Melanie, for example, contributing.
Okay.
So I would like to suggest that we would like to move that we postpone this to our next meeting.
You want to table it? Is that what you're saying, or how do you want to handle it?
I think postponing has the same effect in this context.
It does, okay.
I'll second that.
Okay,
can I say something first?
sure.
With the auditors, if you don't do it by tonight, then I would say that we're probably gonna miss the opportunity. Because we've been putting it off because of, the auditors are here, they wanna be able to finish the end of the year. Melanie can't even post next year until this is done, so I will throw in the towel if you don't do it tonight, because I don't think there's no room to move it.
Seems to me once in a while, and more often, we get into situations where something has to be done tonight, or the sky will fall, Charlie
Well,
Brown.
Melanie said it last meeting. She said if we don't do it, by the 10th, she has to have this stuff turned in, so she gave us ample notice 2 weeks ago.
We didn't have the report 2 weeks ago.
I understand that, but nobody come to me and asked me any questions either. I would have tried to sit down desk side maybe and explain this, but rather than in a letter to you.
Okay,
For what it's worth, gentlemen, the budget report I'm looking at was dated as of 8/20, or it was, well, that was as of 8/29. It is dated 8/28, is that correct, Mike? No, it was after that. We didn't get it until after the last meeting. Yeah, 8/28.
8/28.
So that was about 10 days ago. So I believe that was available to us when she said she put it in our mailboxes Wednesday of that week after the prior select board meeting that happened.
I believe we received it on Thursday or Friday.
Okay, well, it still happened in a timely manner.
Yeah, no questions about that at all. Yes, Martha?
Martha Clifford, Rec. Hearing this discussion, I think what I want to actually bring up and just have everybody remember that I know that when we completed our rec budget, it's always downsized. You pull money out. So, there are times where we do budget, but you pull the money out. So I kind of agree as the taxpayer voted X amount of dollars for recreation. So I'm not sure about the legalities of everything, but, you know, it seems like it's a double-edged sword. We go and budget for rec. And then you as a select board, look at the budget and take things out of rec yearly. So-
How much has your budget increased in the last 2 years, Martha?
Oh, significantly.
Okay, thank you.
But do you realize?
I'm not arguing the point, it's just that it has increased significantly, okay.
We offer more programming
Yeah.
than Middlebury does. Middlebury has 2 full-time staff, rec staff on theirs. I did some research the other day when I was doing a report for Mike, is that there are the top three things families look for when they settle, when they have to resettle. One is schools. First one is they'll go to school. Second is the crime rate. And third is recreational opportunities. So in order to entice families to come and live in Castleton, we need to offer a robust rec.
Fine, okay.
Uh,
Joe?
I'm not aware, I was not aware of the urgency of this decision, or if I was, I'd forgotten that. I guess under those circumstances, I'd be inclined to withdraw my motion to allow us to continue this discussion with the possibility of making a decision tonight.
Okay. Any other questions? Bob, your second? You withdraw your second?
So I'll have to withdraw my second, yeah.
Yeah,
I have no
okay.
choice.
All right. Any other, you want to call the question, or you want more discussion?
I want to make another point or two. From my perspective, the most critical thing that we need to exercise oversight over, as you suggest, Jim, is the total expenditures of the taxpayers' approved funds and the within-department expenditures as those were presented to the taxpayers. I think the issue of what the departments presented to the select board and what the select board authorized in a budget is a matter up for our modification. When the select board agrees that this need for an expenditure in this department is, although not presented in the original department budget, is important, I think it should be within our authority to authorize it as long as the total expenditures for that department stay within their taxpayer-approved amount. This is my first year on the select board, so I'm learning, but I've never worked in an organization that didn't have this problem, that didn't have carryover, that didn't have unexpected overages and underages, unexpected necessary critical expenditures. And most of the institutions I worked with weren't as much affected by the weather as a town budget is. So in principle, if we can legally approve these, and I think the Paul Gillies statement is advisory and does not prohibit what Mike has proposed we should do tonight, and if we can be certain that none of these expenditures will result in exceeding the taxpayer-approved departmental budget, and the total expenditures do not exceed the total authorized amount, I can approve some or all of these.
Well, what do we do with the 6 or 7 that are over budgeted?
I didn't ask for anything that was over budget.
That was what?
The fire department wasn't over budget, rec wasn't over budget.
Police was over 10,000.
I didn't ask for anything for police besides, on the general fund they did. That was where that wasn't, I made it very clear at the end that it wasn't departmental. And the police budget it's not as bad as it looks again, because we had some stuff that wasn't posted, like reimbursements, we haven't received. So the police budget is over. The $5,000 that the university gave wasn't put against that they gave for the extra patrols.
And what else? Because we were 7 in the back.
It was 7, 2 went to the fire department, 5 to the police department.
But that doesn't,
Okay, so-
that doesn't mean, I understand what you're saying. So are you basically saying that we have a budget in a particular department, but if then there is revenue, then that department can exceed its budget
No, I'm not
that was
saying
voted on by the voters.
I'm not saying that.
What are you saying?
The $5,000 that the university gave for those extra patrols isn't in our general fund operating budget.
Where is
So
it?
it's held over, I don't know, when I say over here, there's air
That's
over
okay,
here.
that's all right,
But
yeah.
we have places for money, Melanie puts money in reserve accounts, and it holds it there. But that $5,000 in good faith from the university was to cover the extra cost, that's what they asked for, Chief did. He said, to help cover the extra cost of patrols in the village. So the university gave $5,000. Well, we had to pay it out of the operating budget to pay those officers. That $5,000 is still sitting over here, which will offset it. It just is not in the operating budget because
Okay.
it's not what the voters voted on.
Okay, other comments?
Yeah, I've got a
Zach?
question. Wouldn't it be safe to say that the $86,500 and change has already been approved by the voters? Whether it be this year, last year, or the year before?
That
Wouldn't it be
86,
safe to say that this has been approved?
that $86,000 would come from this year's general fund operating budget. So if you look at your sheets and the departments, I put in letters or beside the department's name what their surplus was. So you can see that I wasn't asking for them to overspend what the voters gave them.
And how long do you think this can go on in this fiscal year? Is there any timeline?
I just said in the resolution was not to go past 30 June of 2020, because that's when the fiscal year ends. So we have to spend it for a specific purpose and a specific time frame.
So the
That's why
time
it's
frame
gonna be-
is the whole fiscal year.
It is, you're assigning it from last year so they can spend. Now, right now, if you were to authorize this, the fire department would go out and order 6 tanks. Last meeting I gave you the quotes for them, so you saw where it was coming from. They'll go out and order the valve. They'll order that stuff now. The only thing that was in question was for the rec department, because they're paving, so we can't do the line striping that I've asked for until it's paved.
Where's the paving for Crystal Beach coming from?
Out of their budget. You carried
That was budgeted?
$15,000.
That was
You can cover
budgeted?
15 from last year, so
Okay.
that they could do it this year.
Okay. Other comments, gentlemen?
I just want to say that in principle, I support what Mike has done, which is to say, when there appeared to be a possibility of overspending the total budget, to put the brakes on his department heads. When a crisis related to weather created new expenditures that were absolutely critical, to cut back on expenditures in other areas to make sure that we had a way to cover that. I think that's good management, and I think that we should reinforce that and continue to practice that in the future. Yet, I don't think this can ultimately hurt our departments. If when Mike has done the prudent thing, when the fiscal situation was uncertain, and they weren't able to spend money, like these 6 famous tanks that you've referred to several times, when they wanted to, they shouldn't be punished for that. And we shouldn't, in effect, reduce next year's budget by the cost of those 6 tanks, which is what we'd be doing if we don't authorize these recommendations.
So the total, what we come up with was the total surplus of the general fund of $189,000. So of that, $86,553.99 was for this, under this resolution. So there's $100,000 basically that goes back into the general fund, and then the board would decide to go to the voters, or whether it goes back into paid on the tax rate, whatever that may be. We also had $103,000 more in revenues than we anticipated, and that's also in that report. So the town did get $103,000 more than we anticipated in revenue, and I was really diligent about how I did this. Like, I was talking with Martha today, and the rec department was like 19 grand surplus, but they also had $5,000 something less in revenue. So I said, okay, to offset that, instead of asking to use the $19,000, I took that $5,000 or something out of there and dropped it down to the $12,000 that just was for the beach. So I really did put effort into this to try to be fiscally sound on what I was at, numbers I was giving you.
You're not factoring that 103,000 into that.
That's in the general, that's good. That went to our general fund.
Okay, gentlemen, you ready for vote?
Mr.
Yes.
Chairman,
Yes. Dick,
I would request a roll call vote on this, since I'm,
you're gonna have one anyway, Dick.
Okay,
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, one no. The roll call vote is, I voted no, Dick. The rest of the board voted yes, and I assume naturally you voted yes. Is that correct? Is that correct?
yes.
Okay.
Voted aye.
Okay. Okay, shall we move on? Like to something else? Okay. Highway garage floor.
So on this one, I.
Change order, that's in your manager's report, right?
No, we actually have, there should be a sheet in there. So I own something on this one. I'm embarrassed to say I can't count to 8. But when I put out the bid spec for the garage, I said 6 doors in there. There's actually 8 doors. So when Jared came back to me and said, I need to do a change order because there's 8 doors, not 6, he provided a $9,000 plus increase to get the job done. So that's the additional amount. In my manager's report, I'm asking that the board authorize expenditures from the highway carryover unassigned fund balance for $35,145.07. That's what we need. If we take what's in the current budget and what we need to make it whole, that number's it, because that's what we need to do to get the garage floor fixed. So that is just, the one I gave you there was the quote. That was the extra amount. But what I need the board to do is authorize the expenditure, and it's on page 3 of the manager report.
Do you know where those doors are coming from?
The doors?
Yeah.
I don't know, the door, we're not replacing doors, I don't know. The concrete's all cut out.
You're adding 2 more doors? Are you replacing them, or what are you doing?
No. Yeah, well, that's my fault.
Oh, you mean to just cut the concrete, you're doing nothing with the doors?
Right, the doors are.
Okay, all right, I got
They're
you.
bays, I should have said the number of bays.
No problem, okay.
But that's in their carryover, to be able to pay for that, because we only budgeted $24,000. We didn't know what it was gonna be at the time, so we put 24 as our best guess, and that was a bad guess. No, it's already done.
He's already started the project. Yeah, he's already started the project.
We authorized it last week, and then after that, he came in and said, oh, by the way, there's 8 doors, not 6.
Okay, so is there a motion, gentlemen?
You need a motion for us to authorize $35,145.07 from the highway unassigned carryover to pay the balance of the Ellis Construction bill upgrading the highway garage.
That's correct, Joe.
There a second?
Second.
Motion and second, discussion? None, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, motion carries. Use of scrap steel to purchase a set of portable torches for the town mechanic of the highway department. That's in your manager's report too, Mike.
It is, and I have the quotes here. I did some more research on top of what Bob Ward did, and we found it actually, surprisingly, it's cheaper through Amazon. And I put that in there, the amount, for $400, it's $398 and change, but we gotta get the gas. So I asked for the,
Saw that right there.
it's on, I didn't number pages, so 1, 2, 3, 4, page 4. It's the last one under, right at the top of police department. So request that Bob Ward be allowed to purchase a set of portable torches, and I give you all the data. So he's got all the scrap steel that he's collected up there. If he could turn that in and buy those torches, it doesn't get put into out of his operating budget. But he's been hauling those big tanks around, like fixing underneath the compactor bin up at the transfer station, and it is really a pain in the rear end for him to try to crawl under there with those big tanks. So this is just a set of little tanks where he can get in those tight spaces and do it. So if you allow him to just get that steel turned in, anything above $400 would be turned back into the town.
Okay, motion?
Make a motion, we allow Bob Warren to turn in the scrap steel to buy a set of torches.
Motion is second, discussion. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, takes care of that. Fuel quotes, Highway Department, Mike?
You saw those in there, and I'm looking through a pile of paperwork right now.
Yeah.
Where's yours?
It's right here, Mike.
You wanna do what I do, Mike?
So I've been
Tomorrow morning,
recommending the
I
lowest
file
bid
it.
on it.
Find it?
Champlain Valley,
You recommended
PNH.
Champlain Valley at a 198 per gallon?
Yes,
Yeah,
for 3,000 gallons.
Make a motion. I make a motion we award the fuel bid to Champlain Valley Plumbing and Heating, or whatever P&H stands for,
okay,
$1.98 per gallon.
okay, there's a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
I abstain.
motion carries.
I abstain.
Okay. MHG Solar contract consideration?
MHG solar contract, they're the ones that want to put in the raid behind the transfer station up on the gravel pit. Previous meetings, I handed out the contract itself. What I wanted to just make note of here is that I talked to Lois Baldwin about this. What I was concerned about was liability to the town should anything leach out of the old dump. And all of a sudden that array, the state comes in and says, you have to do something, and that array's already been put on that slope, that we would be held liable probably. So I talked to Lois about it. She agreed that we need to talk with the solar company to make sure that in the contract, this is a provision in there, and that when they're doing their permitting, that's discussed about that old dump up there. Before we,
Did that dump go up that high? It
it's
did?
right at the top of the hill.
It did?
They walked the actual, so the solar, the two guys from the solar company actually walked the land. So they know it's there, they're aware of it, but as far as us not having it in a contract, if something were to happen,
Yeah.
we have, that thing has to be cleared out of all those solar panels. That solar company would certainly not just smile about that.
Okay.
So I think there's some more research that needs to get done, but what they want to do, MHG Solar wants to enter into a contract, a lease agreement with the town, and be able to start the process now to permitting and all that stuff, with the anticipation that the town will have all of its gravel that's viable up there on that slope removed before June, end of June of next year, so they can start putting up the solar panels. So I have some homework to do with Lois and making sure that they understand what we're asking. And she recommended I call DEC and talk to them about if there are any provisions the town had, like wells, test wells, or whatever they're called, making sure that nothing's leaching out of there. So I'll do all that homework. I'll come back to you with what I find, but I don't think we should enter any contract with MHG until that homework's done.
Okay. Okay, any questions on that?
So will we have a amended contract once all of that is taken care of for next June? So next spring, we'll have a contract instead of looking through 4 or 5 contracts.
Yeah, that would be a new contract, and because they want to start the work, they want to sign it now, so they can start all their permit processes. And until we get an answer on that, I would not recommend we do anything.
Just a small point, it would almost seem as if this is a risk that could be addressed through an insurance policy. It seems to me that this is a kind of a low probability event that you're talking about, but yet one that we do need to worry about and need to have addressed through this contract process. But one way of dealing with it would be for them or us jointly to take out a policy that would cover our losses should the worst case scenario unfold.
I can Make a note of that.
Mike,
This is a 25-year agreement, so it definitely is, none of us will probably be sitting here in 25 years, but it's worth it.
in my case.
yeah, you probably will. You've been here that long already, haven't you? Does that give you enough time, Mike, to get the, what, gravel wise off there?
Yeah, and that's gonna lead into another, something next on the agenda.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay? Okay, excavator rental contract. Again, manager's report.
Yeah, well, I have a folder here that Karen just finished today, we just got that. So what I did, and I know, Bob, you brought it in the past, so I want to try to follow our bid policies and making sure we're following that. So in this particular case, what I'm looking for is an excavator, and I have a whole list of jobs. With the transfer station, the moving of the gravel at the gravel pit. We got a Pencil Mill Road culvert replacement grant project that needs to get done before winter. We got some trees that need to get removed here at the town office. We got Crystal Beach, some stump removal and filling back in with some dirt and stuff. And there's a building up there that needs to be demoed. And Paul Rogers came to me and talked, there is toilets in there. Because I guess I talked to Jim today at one point that they were probably hooked into either a septic system or the sewer, but it's no longer used and it's falling in and it's more of a liability for the town. So I want that demoed and taken out of there. So looking at this, you guys, the board had approved Joe Garrigan, who's a town employee, the lease of his excavator to do the project on Minor Hill and a couple other things. So I took that numbers and I had Karen reach out to, we had G-Stone, Gina Cola, and Creams, which is T-Quick, and give me some quotes of what it would cost to rent an excavator to get all these jobs done. And I can tell you with absolute certainty that Joe Garrigan's $42.50 per hour is far less than the $850 daily. Just the cost of the hammer, Joe doesn't charge us for the hammer, is $3,350 a week. So it is far less expensive for us to use Joe, because he has a hammer and both of the buckets for digging, to get these jobs done. So what I'm asking is for the board to approve is this last contract that you allowed, there's a clause in there that says that this can be extended upon mutual agreement. What I'd like to do is extend it by mutual agreement for another $6,800 or 160 hours of time to get those done, with a caveat that some of it is grant related, and that money that will get reimbursed. Like on Minor Hill, we paid $6,800 for the use of his excavator. We got $17,000 in the grant. So it paid for his excavator, it paid for all the materials and some of the labor. So it's definitely a win-win, and I have the copy of the contract here. It's something, it should be in your packet. I just asked him that we mutually agree that Joe's already said he would do it, that the board agrees so we can work and get those projects done, and there's a reason. We have one small excavator that the town owns, and to get ready for winter, we've got multiple projects that I need them to stay on with that one excavator. It doesn't have a hammer, it doesn't have a thumb, there's things that we don't have. I'll take that back, as a thumb. It doesn't have the buckets that we need, and it doesn't have a hammer. And to get the ledge out of these places, some of these places, it's $3,350 to get one for a month. So it's way cheaper, just asking the board to approve the extension of Joe's contract, $6,800 for 160 hours. And like I said, not all of it's gonna come out of the budget, because we're gonna get some from a grant.
The only question I have is, you mentioned other companies, which are generally larger companies, had local excavators in the area. Were they given the opportunity to bid on this?
There were some that didn't want it, there's some that
That's
don't
okay.
have the right size equipment.
Okay.
They don't have the hammer, and they gotta go rent it, and the cost, like you see, was
Yeah.
$3,350 to rent one. Joe also built a ripper tooth for his bucket, and that's what they used on Minor Hill, or else that project would have been even longer completing.
Okay, but local excavators were given the opportunity
Yeah.
with the specs that you specified. Okay, is there a motion?
I would move that we authorize $6,800 for the lease of excavation equipment and total of up to 160 hours of operation.
Second.
Motion to second, discussion?
The only question I think Mike already answered is, I was gonna ask, why aren't we using our own excavator? But you pretty much covered that. He's gonna do some projects we could do with our own excavator, but
Yeah.
you said it's gotta be on other projects for the winter.
Okay.
That was my only question I had for you.
What size is ours?
It's smaller than,
Yeah, that can be nailed number dog.
It's considerably smaller.
Yeah. so I'm good.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye, okay, motion carries. This will authorize the town manager to sign the contract,
Thank you.
okay? South Street sidewalks, or crosswalks and sidewalks?
This is an FYI for you gentlemen. I did meet with Castleton University's Director of Public Safety, Keith Moneri, their Head of Facilities, Devin Neary from Rutland Regional Planning Commission, Paul Agan from the Town of Castleton, and Pete Mattello could not make it that day. But there's been concern from citizens as well as university personnel that the crosswalks that go across South Street, those 5 separate crosswalks, they're not visible. The paint's worn off. We found out they cannot be re-stamped. That the university's already tried that, and they said, no, it can't be re-stamped. So they can be painted. So as we discussed this with Devin Neary from the Rutland Regional Planning Commission, he is recommending that we apply for a grant with a cooperative between the university and the town, and see what we can get for money for a long-term strategy fix for these areas. The short-term fix is to paint them, and the university said that they would do a cost share with the town to paint those. And of course, as you know, we're up against the weather and not going into past the end of September. So what I asked Paul Agan to do was to reach out to L&D, which the town, you guys had authorized for our line painting this year, and see if they do this work and give me a cost estimate. If they don't, reach out to Ben Diggs or somebody else that does it and give me a cost estimate, so I can come back to you with something before winter.
Okay.
But we are working with the university to try to make this a safer place for both motorists and for pedestrians.
They say what percent they were willing to contribute?
No, we just did
Just
a
in general?
high
Okay,
flyover that, so,
okay. That's just FYI, right?
yes.
Okay.
Well, my question would be, Mike, is I don't have a problem sharing the costs for our sidewalks. The 2 by the college, those are clearly the college's sidewalks.
Not sidewalks, Bob, crosswalks.
Crosswalks.
Okay,
I
crosswalks.
didn't know, just make sure.
Yeah, crosswalks.
Well, it goes across the town's land. We do it in the
That's
village.
true, but they go across there because the college is there. They're clearly their crosswalks. I would like to see them pay for those 2 crosswalks. The one by the rail trail, okay, I'll give them that
There's
one.
5 total. There's the 2, one by the science.
And there's
science
one-
center, one by the campus.
Yeah.
Student center there, and then there's one up by Adams Hall, then there's one by the stadium, and then there's the rail trail.
Okay, the rail trail I have a problem with, because that's clearly our responsibility, but the other 4 are clearly the college's responsibility. I don't understand why the taxpayers of Castleton have to share the cost, because those are clearly crosswalks for the college.
I'm not sure.
That's my feelings.
Totally, I think that this is a community thing, but I respect what you're asking me. Let me get a cost estimate and see what they're willing to pay, and then I can come back to you with what that looks like.
Because if that college wasn't there, Mike, there would be no crosswalks there, clearly.
Okay. That's where we are on that?
And that's gonna come up on the paving list in a couple of years. So again, the stamping of it doesn't make sense for us to go put all that money into it and then tear it up and pave it in 2 years, so.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Dick?
correct me if I'm wrong, but my recollection is back when that South Street was repaved the last time, which was quite a few years ago, and didn't the college actually fund stamping of those crosswalks? I don't believe the town.
I believe you're correct.
contributed
Yeah,
money towards
I believe
that.
you're right, yeah.
He's correct.
Okay,
So I'm just saying there might be precedent for what Bob's saying, because I think Bob has a good point.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. Do we need anything else on that? No? We can move on. Emissions improvement grant to replace the water truck at the highway department?
And
Michael?
this is exploratory, gentlemen. I gave you some documents on it. We haven't even done our full exploration of this, but there potentially could be some grant money to replace that old water truck, which doesn't meet current, it has old emission standard stuff on it. It's, the brakes are, Bob Ward's been putting a Band-Aid on that truck for years with the brakes. But it's not gonna be a hefty amount. This is like a 35% match for replacement of that truck. And it says it has to have 2016 or newer standards. So even if we bought a used vehicle, it would have to meet those 2016 standards. So we're gonna look into it, see if it's even feasible, and if we find something that looks appetizing, we'll come back to the board and propose something.
Okay. Moving on, south, let's see. Sidewalk project repairs. Again, Mike?
Oh, boy. Well, I had a talk with Ken Lucci this past week about the recommendation, or not even a recommendation, what the state's saying needs to get done in front of Rob Steele's place at Tom's Bait and Tackle. The argument has been that it wasn't done as designed. I briefed you guys last meeting that there was an email that was sent out and designs were not made, didn't make it to Belding's. So Belding's designed it as what the last set of plans they had. My argument again, and this is, I talked to Ken about it, is that the water still is not making it to the catch basin that's on the west side of Rob's driveway. So even if it, doesn't matter what plan it was, you built it and the water's not making it to the catch basin. So what Ken told me, he said, I can just mill it down a little bit and make the water get to the catch basin and not be intrusive to our residents and a business. I don't think that's settling well with Pete Pochop, and I think he's dealing with Teresa Gilman right now, but he didn't reply to me as of today. Is why can't we just mill it, get it to the catch basin, not be intrusive, and just let it lie at that? And I don't think it was a threat, it was just a statement that was made to me by Pete that said, well, then you might not get your 1111 permit. And so I asked the question, what does that mean? Like we lose our birthday? I don't know. I don't really know what that means right now. So more to follow on that. And Rob called me Thursday or Friday, I think of last week, asked me what was going on. I didn't have a whole lot to tell him besides what I just reiterated. But I'm in agreement that if we can just mill that thing down, get the water to make it that extra 15 feet, because we're not going to go back and re-engineer the original plan because I had a catch basin that went on top of water and sewer lines, and that's why it was removed from the plans. So they're not going to go back and go, oh, let's go put it back on top of the water and sewer lines. I mean, so that's kind of out of the picture right now. We got to make the situation work now without being intrusive to their business. That's my 2 cents. And then the area, Sussex property between Iron Lantern and Slate Valley Physical Therapy and the salon there, they want that little strip that comes out from the hair salon into Iron Lantern's parking lot to Route 4A. They want that seeded and, topsoil and seeded. That's what the plans call for. Well, they want Belding's, there's $5,000 for Belding to do the job. We could probably do it for cheaper. But do we really want to pursue that? What I told them is people are going to drive across it. Now, they may, and I don't want to speak for any landowners, they may just make another road that goes into that parking lot and comes back in. From the hair salon across into the parking lot and out. I don't want to speak for somebody, but that's the potential if they don't drive across it. But no matter what, there's a cost associated with doing that, and that's, if Belden does it, it's $5,000. If we do it, I don't know what it'd be our labor and cost of grass seed.
We can't get to it for a long time, because you just got done saying we have all these projects to get done before winter, so just leave it be.
And
That's my recommendation, sorry.
I do want an answer from V-Trans on what does it mean by you're not gonna get your 11/11 permit?
Actually, we want an answer to
I
that.
need an answer to that.
Okay, any other questions on that? No? Okay. Moving on. Sailboat Use Contract.
I believe I shared with you what,
I think I should recuse myself.
You do?
Yes.
Why?
Why?
You don't have to leave your chair to do that.
You
This
don't,
is how I may have drafted this, I don't know.
Oh, we gotta get in the audience and talk about it now?
so
Okay.
here's what I got from our.
we'll wait till you get out, Joe, before we talk about it.
So, I talked to Lois Baldwin about this, I talked to the league about it, and basically what they come up with, or their response back was, the league says it's high risk. But that doesn't mean that the town can't decide that they're going to have risk mitigation factors in place and go ahead with the sailboat rental contract. So, our attorney, I had Charles Romeo look at that. He had one question in there, he said, sailors, if your sailboat flips, stay with it because it floats. And he wrote, does it really? That was the only thing that he found, Joe, in the contract, Mr. Mark, that he wrote as the sailboat program guy. Yeah. So I would say that now it's in the board's lap, is say, is that contract, there's enough risk mitigation in there that you feel comfortable going forward? Because I asked the league, if something happens, will you defend us?
For insurance.
Well, we're already insured.
They
Will
will insure
they, if
us.
something happens, will they defend this? And I have an answer.
So they will cover this.
Yes, we're insured for it. It's just, they're saying it's high risk,
Okay.
but the only thing they said about it was that if the claim is coverable, and so they talk about terms, conditions of our passive agreement for insurance. So that's what I don't have an answer about. I didn't read through the volume of terms, conditions, and standards to find out if something in there might fall into the category of not coverable. I think that I read through that, the attorney read through it, and I think there's a lot of risk mitigation in there that doesn't put the town at this huge risk of liability. But
Therefore, do you recommend we sign it?
I do.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the contract?
Make a motion, we approve the sailboat contract.
Second,
Okay, motion to second. Any other discussion?
I've got a question.
Go ahead.
What's the reward here?
Excuse me?
What's the reward compared to the risk that we're taking with renting a sailboat?
Healthy kids.
I was talking more like monetary reward, no?
No monetary, no. Okay,
Well, more kids that get interested in this program each year, that's.
Yeah.
revenue.
That's a plus.
Recreation for kids
Yeah.
on the lake, which most recreation.
you want to identify yourself for
Yes,
Liza,
I am
please?
Clap, I am the co-director of the programs with Castleton Recreation. I've worked with Joe over the last 3 years now to get this sailing program up and running. It is one of our most popular programs, and it attracts a larger cross-section of kids in Castleton than probably any of our other programs.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye, Dick?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Thanks. Okay. Select board concerns. Oh, anything else in the manager's report? Mike,
Oh, yeah, sorry.
you got something else?
There was.
He didn't cover everything here.
Consider,
so.
got that. No, sir, I'm good, thank you.
You're good? Okay. Select board concerns.
I'm all set, sir.
Okay. Zach?
Yeah, I was looking at this, no? Okay, that's fine.
Please.
Okay. Nope, I'm all set.
All set? Joe?
All set.
Okay, I guess I'm all set.
Can you just touch on, Mike, I'm still having a problem with you looking to hire another full-time person at the transfer station. Where is the need for
It's a
a?
roustabout. We don't have one. The roustabout position is not full.
Okay, that was my question, is the way I read this, it looked like you were just hiring it just for the transfer station.
No, it's the roustabout position.
Okay,
And I
so,
just had 2 interviews.
so on Wednesday, Fridays, he would be either at the highway garage or the waste, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay, that pretty much, is Chris working towards getting his CDL? Or we-
Yes.
Okay,
He's gonna take his permit, so he
Okay.
knows that they don't need a physical or whatever. He can just go do that, and then he can start driving with, one of our guys that has a CDL.
okay, that was basically my main questions on that. We covered the excavator thing already.
Yep. Guess we've done everything else, right, under this?
I think so.
Hope so.
Thanks for cracking down on people getting their permits or their correct licenses or certifications.
Yeah.
I just don't wanna see that go year after year. Yeah,
He did, I met with him, and I did a letter to him, it was in writing.
Yeah.
Because the other person that we have to deal with, it never was put in writing, and, we're not reaping any benefits of that now.
I think that's all I had.
Okay, I guess that's it. Purchase orders. Bob, you want to do these two, or?
I apologize, Jim.
Okay.
This is.
Go ahead, Joe.
This is going back. I guess this is a request, Mike, regarding the format of the agenda and your town manager's report.
Okay?
As I think many of us experienced tonight, frequently, there's a lot of flipping around that we need to do, because some items that are on the agenda are, in your manager's report, some of them are not. If you could find a way, and I hope this is not asking too much, to kind of sequence the items in your report to correspond, roughly speaking, with the items on, the order of the items on the agenda, I think it would be greatly facilitate our use of materials.
I agree.
I apologize, I normally don't put the stuff on the agenda if it's in the manager report. I try to avoid that. This time, there's a lot of extra stuff added to the agenda, so I apologize, but I will take that certainly into consideration how I do it.
Okay, anything else?
Can I say something?
Sure you can.
I just remembered. Minutes.
It's all right.
Minutes from last meeting.
I don't see them in here.
They're not in here.
They're not in
So
here.
we're not doing it?
We'll do it next one,
Do it
right?
next time.
Oh, we can do
Yeah.
that? Okay, that's fine. Never mind.
Okay. Okay, purchase orders, we have two, and then we have the general warrants. You want to do that, Bob?
I'll do 'em.
Okay.
Make a motion, we approve purchase order 043302 to Ray Bean Tire for 16 all-season tires for 4 CPD cruisers for a total dollar amount of $2,304.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay.
Make a motion, we approve purchase order 043293 to Watch Guard Video, also for the police department, for 4 RE standard DVR in-car camera system for $4,920.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right.
I just want to note, 84% is reimbursed by CHSP equipment grant. I should have said that before.
You got the numbers on there?
I do.
No, you got these? Did you mention that?
I got them both.
Okay, good.
Yeah, all good there.
Okay.
Can I interject on that one?
Oh, sure.
So what you're gonna see, just for reference sake, you'll see on the police department's budget that total amount's gonna be taken out. We'll get a grant reimbursement. It's gonna go not into that, you won't see it. So that's how that kind of stuff ends up being tricky with the math, is you only see part of what's in that general fund budget.
Let me get this straight. So that would go into unanticipated revenue for the police. Okay, so you never
Okay.
see it on the expense side.
That's the tough part, for us not seeing that, yeah.
Okay, the general warrants. Let's have a volunteer.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Okay.
I'll make a motion, we approve warrant number 0909 for $161,819.89. Warrant number 0905 for $6,063.12. Warrant 0903 for $14,259.04. Warrant 0830 for $6,669.45. Warrant number 0905P for $15,974.53. Warrant number 0829B for $18,062.93.
Okay, second?
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll make a motion, we approve warrant number 0904P for $682.87, and warrant number 0828B for $682.97.
Second.
Motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I recuse myself from that.
Okay. That's on the second page.
Okay. Second page, Joe. There's nothing in that first one.
Make it easy for you, Joe.
It's warmed up for you here.
Jennifer called me, said, so you guys been hanging out?
Maybe. Yeah.
You're good at what you do, and we appreciate that.
Thank you. Well, right now, I have water and very low blood pressure.
Take some, so you know,
I'm not sure.
it's a hard business to do.
Yeah.
There's water.
Got him?
I think so.
Zach, move over there. We don't have to.
That works perfectly.
Good move, Zach.
It's within its range, 15% pressure.
Wow. I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, I gotta figure something out.
What else can you do at this point? You think so?
How many?
8 altogether? Should be 8, Zach.
8.
Watch that cord, Zach. Yeah.
Yeah. Any other business before we go to executive session? No? Okay. What do we need here, Mike?
Only thing that I have is labor relations contracts. No real estate, no personnel.
Okay, is there a motion?
Make a motion, we go, make a motion, we go into executive session for labor relations / contracts.
Second.
Motion to second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. To include the town manager.
Include the town manager.